Welcome back to Beast Machines Monday. Host, Reboot Doug, Paul, Matrix, Paul.
Reboot Doug and Matrix Paul. Yes.
Andrea Doug.
Oh, somebody's proclaiming his interest. Alas.
You're spoken for?
Mm-hmm. Well,
I heard that about you.
Well, until I lose a game and then I get transported off elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, today we're talking about a three-parter of a Beast Machines episode. I put up 6 fingers actually. I think it starts with them running from
they're in a tunnel and
yeah.
they're running from motorcycles.
Yeah, which is always the usual. They counted them. There's like 5.
Holy shit!
And there's only like 5 of them. So how are they going to survive? I don't know.
The odds are against them.
They run around a bunch of like corridors and they find their way back into a little area. It's all underground.
Some junction thing.
It's this.
And Optimus is all like, lungs, weakness. And then the motorcycles show up and then he's like, here, I'm going to grab your sword. And then he hurls it at the coolant tank.
Yeah.
Just like that, we had a coolant leak.
Coolant leak! We have a coolant leak, everybody! Let's go! Let's get out of here! Everybody out!
We know what happens when there's a coolant leak.
Yeah, Jordy has to roll under the door.
he actually, I think Jordy's always waiting for those coolant leaks.
Yeah.
He's like, it's my stunt time, Woo!
He's all like,
He makes it look easy. So the coolant washes all of the motorcycles away.
Because clearly, the only way for them to survive this encounter with these Vehicons is some contrived ass way of like blowing up the coolant thing and then generating a bunch of drama because Rat Trap can't swim.
The thing that I don't understand about this whole situation is that I can kind of understand that Optimus, he throws the thing in there. It seems like a good idea at the time, except for the fact that the coolant like washes away Rat Trap and they don't really know how to deal with that situation. Could you not have like thought things through long enough to grab Rat Trap first and before you jump up and it just seems like a very not like.
I think that was their way of basically showing that Optimus wasn't quite in his right mind.
It's true.
Usually he would have planned ahead, like he would have thought this whole thing through. My issue is the fact that you don't need some kind of coolant leak to deal with Vehicons. We've already established.
Yeah.
They're not a threat to you. Why are you throwing your sword in the thing?
Now that the Vehicon's been washed away by coolant and through that unnecessarily convoluted way of defeating them, Optimus, takes them up and he's like, well, now we're upstairs.
Lo and behold, a graveyard. Bunch of bodies everywhere, and they're like, holy crap.
Yeah, there's a lot of Maximals all over the place. They're all dead, and Rat Trap says that he can't detect any residues. So the sparks have not been extinguished, but rather just removed.
Yeah, which means we can put the sparks back.
Well, what I was pointing out is the fact that there are no pieces of them left. Yeah, so they're intact wherever they are whole.
I mean, they assume they're alive somewhere, but I guess they didn't consider that they could have been extinguished elsewhere. But why would you go to all the trouble to remove them if we weren't going to keep them, like in a jar?
And that's very scientific, because we all have a spark collection.
Yeah, I got 4.
They get to the top, and they see all the bodies, and she was all like, Silverbolt, I miss you.
She's like, oh, Silverbolt, my old boyfriend. Oh. I loved him so much, and also...
They couldn't even remember them back in the previous episodes. Then the Jets were like, hey, Maximals.
And they wind up getting separated, so Optimus is with Cheetor, they're fighting Jetstorm, Rat Trap is with Nightscream, and Black Arachnia actually finds herself with Thrust. They fight it out, but actually Thrust zooms by and saves her. Because of the lack of coolant, now there's things venting out, and Optimus is like, I think this place is going to explode in about 15 minutes.
Uh-oh.
So Black Arachnia is elsewhere, and she's like, wait a minute. Why would Thrust save me? And then she looks, and he's got a bit of a shadow, a feathery shadow.
Very dog-like shadow.
Yeah. And also every now and then he goes, woof, woof, woof.
And his tail wags. He's drooling.
And so she's like, why did you save me? And he's like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, I guess I'll...
You're the only female bot on the planet.
He's like, I was actually just trying to cup a feel. The battle with Optimus and Jetstorm is very frustrating.
So first Optimus says we're through running from these bastards, and he wants to
use
take
those
the
words
Enterprise into the cloud so that way they can like suck in the gas and then deploy it in front of the sun with warships and then shoot a torpedo at it and then cause an explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his plan. The execution wasn't quite as poetic because he just hangs there on the side of a building screaming at people.
You know, Optimus, he's not very... His aim is bad in this one, and he's actually barely kind of, like, fighting. Actually, the Maximals in general are just not good at fighting. They're like, we gotta stand up for ourselves.
All right.
And, you know, our right to party.
They're not really fighting very well. Mm-hmm. They're not really fighting as a unit. Even though they do all this training.
It seems like Optimus forgot to, like, actually join in the training.
I guess so.
He's forgotten how to beast war. That's the main problem. He's like, I'm a beast machine. But how do I beast war? The thing that mostly saves them is the fact that the vent keeps blowing Jetstorm away.
Twice.
Yeah.
Idiot. It's like, it's glowing, it's green, and there's like smoke coming out of it. Just stay away from it.
Black Arachnia finds her way into this factory kind of thing, and then it activates, and it's like, oh, I like sparks. Those are delicious. It grabs her and Thrust, actually, and starts to extract their sparks. Thrust, again, because he's very altruistic, and so he has a connection to Black Arachnia that he can't explain. He frees her by blasting in and says, save yourself. And she's like, I don't do that. I don't save myself. Yeah. I put myself in harm's way frequently. So she jumps on there, and she actually finally does something. Because, again, she's not with their weapons... She's not using them at the right, like, the best times. Like, you know, like when she's being grabbed, she could have just, like, it. But she chooses to wait until it was going to pull out her spark, and then is released, and then she goes and then does it to the thing, and then it dies, and then it lets Thrust go.
Maybe her, like, little leg things that did a thing were pinned because it was holding on to her.
Okay. The machine that comes out and grabs her and Thrust, it has two functions. It can extract sparks, but it can also detach you after you've gotten out of the Matrix. And so that way you get ejected and digested to be fed to the other humans.
That's a really good idea. Waste not, right?
Thrust got a spark taken out. She does chest compressions and gets it back in there.
Yeah, listen, look, listen, feel. He's not breathing, just keep going. Look, listen, feel. Okay, he's breathing now.
Yeah, so he's good. And he's like, why'd you save me? So Optimus and Cheetor, they find Rat Trap and Night Scream. They're like, where's Black Arachnia? And Optimus is like, there? And then they go, and then they're like, hey, Black Arachnia. She's like, hey.
That's silver
thrust bolts. And then they're like, yeah, get him. And he's like, oh, it's a trap. Okay, bye. Zoom. And then
she's like, you idiots.
Guys.
You ruined everything.
How dare you do things that try to save me? They're like, okay, let's get out of here. And then Optimus is like, wait a minute. Everything's my fault.
Look over there.
Everything. I'm so bad at being a leader.
You see that right over there?
That's my fault. She was like, hey, Optimus, we should get out of here. This place is going to explode.
Then he was like, no, that's it. I'm taking over.
Let's get out of here.
That's an order.
And Optimus is like, he actually follows the order, and then they run. And it's probably a good idea because the place pretty much goes nuclear. And it's a good thing that they ran as fast as they could, or they might have exploded with it.
Yeah, the explosion overtook fighter jets that can break atmo, but hey, they're running as fast as they can. Because
they were running in slow-mo, they got away.
That's right.
They got away.
Because the fire was in slow motion too, right?
And then that's the end of part 1, isn't it?
Yeah. Part 2, he's meditating.
He's plugged in with the Oracle, and then he's like, "What's going on over here? There's a jungle." And
Then the jungle. Oh my god!
this was vines.
Tentacles!
This might remind you of other voices, actually. So Optimus is like, "Oh no, I've been here before, and I didn't
Show
like it
yourself.
that time." Yeah.
Unicron.
You're
That's
the
your real name.
Unicron. Cheetor's slapping him in the face, and Ratchet's giving him a good old shake. He's like, "Hey, why'd you wake me up?" They're like, "Well, you said, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up."
This is so scary.
Ah! And he's like, "I wouldn't have said that." And they're like, "We're pretty sure you said that." Optimus is like, "Guys, just leave me alone. I'm gonna go plug into the Oracle here. We're gonna have dinner and drinks. I'm gonna get filled in with everything I need to know about our quest."
He's like, something you just gotta do alone
And they're like-
with the Oracle.
And then Cheetor's like, "Okay, then we'll leave."
So they're having a conversation about how they should try to rescue the Vehicons because they're pals.
Because Black Dragon is like, Thrust, he's a Maximal. He's definitely Maximal.
I saw his spark.
Yeah. And it said,
He's a
I'm a
Maximal.
a very silvery, bolty kind of Maximal.
Why isn't she saying that it's Silverbolt?
I think she doesn't want them to like think that her judgment is clouded, or that she's gonna put like the mission at risk for the sake of her loins. I don't know, but it does seem like maybe they would be more sympathetic to her cause or help her out a little more if she was honest. But maybe she's afraid of that judgment. I don't know. I could sort of see why. I'm not judging it too harshly on that.
Communication. It's important.
It's true. It's better. It's for a good, healthy relationship. You need a lot of communication.
And the Maximals are barely hanging on as it is.
Cheetor's like, "Well, I've got an idea. Let's go liberate some Vehicons."
Holy crap, that's a good idea. Should we invite Optimus? No, he wants to be alone. So they leave him.
He's got his own thing to do, you know? He's off being a monkey, doing monkey business.
And he did technically tell them to leave him alone.
They're following orders, pretty much.
Isn't Cheetor in charge? Did he take over the mission or did he take over command?
The chain of command is a little unclear at the moment, I guess. You know, I don't know who's leading. In this mission, Cheetor's in charge. Overall, maybe as the spiritual guide, Optimus is there. I don't know. Cheetor's like, "Okay, let's get Tankor because he's slow and he's stupid." And Black Arachne is like, "Whoa, we should get a lot of Thrust. We know he's Maximal. And, you know, we know he's hunky and he's, like, noble and then they're like, no, we like Tankor. Tankor's big and dumb and slow. Like, but if you guys want to handle, you know, Thrust and,
I'll do it! I got thrust!
they're like, cool, alright, awesome. Then that's...
She could use a good thrusting.
Jetstorm also will, you know, they gotta keep him busy too. That way Rattrap and Cheetor can get into Tankor's brain and see what's going on. Because I guess they know they can do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if R2 can do it, Rattrap can do it. So the hunt is on. And she's all like, "Hey, Thrust." And he's like, "Oh, hubba hubba."
And then he's like, "So I like long walks on the beach." To get the attention of Thrust and Jetstorm, they start blowing things up nearby where Night Scream saw them. Because Tankor's busy and his little tanks, they're loading and unloading.
Yeah, they're loading and unloading.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shipments.
The shipments of stuff
Yeah.
that's needed and necessary.
Question
Yeah.
for the audience here.
Yeah.
I've already asked you this question. What are they shipping? They've got no industry. They've got no economy. They've got nothing. It's quiet. The only reason why the Vehicons were even activated is because of the arrival of the Maximals. There'd literally be nobody on Cybertron doing anything except Megatron
Maybe
and Jarvis.
they are shipping materials to rebuild that tank factory that they destroyed.
I never thought of that.
Ha! But you know what is not explained? That. You're welcome, writers.
Yeah,
Rattrap and Cheetor get there and they're like, "Well, how do we get Tankor's attention?"
I know. Let's throw this thing over there in front of them.
That explodes. It was actually a classic Rattrap move and I really liked it. That was like the highlight of the episode for me. Just throw this grenade right in front of them. They would have gotten the same effect if they went, "Hey, Tankor!" But, you know, but why not make it explode? He turns around, he starts chasing them, and of course the other tanks will follow.
Which completely defeated the purpose of the distraction technique. The explosion alerted everybody in the area, so all the tanks stopped what they're doing, like, oh, explosion.
But Rattrap had to get his, like, I guess I'll have to use my own signature kind of moment in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cheetor's taking care of the tanks, but Rattrap's going to take care of Tankor by jumping on his back and pulling out his little R2-D2 tail and sticking it in his brain.
And while all this is taking place, Black Arachne is all like, "Hey, I'm gonna use my lightning finger and I'm gonna stick it behind your ear." And he's all like, "Oh, my memories."
I'm remembering things. I remember you, and I remember there's Earth, and there's Optimus, and Cheetor, and Rhinox.
Oh, Rhinox.
I know all these guys. Anyways, Jetstorm comes in as well and starts shooting.
And then everyone dies.
Yeah, and then everyone's gunned down. Thrust, Black Arachnia, Night Scream. They are gunned down, bleeding everywhere.
Guts everywhere.
Yeah, and Jetstorm comes in, he pulls their heads off, he holds them up, and their spines are dangling, and he uses them as trophies.
Fatality.
I was going Predator, but he went into Mortal Kombat. Either way works.
I got it after I said it, and I was like, oh wait, no, he's gonna clean the skull now.
yeah. We're just kidding, by the way. They didn't actually all get gunned down and die. Everyone knows when you get shot, it's just gonna knock you out of the scene for a little bit.
Yeah. Jetstorm is like really durable in this episode.
Oh yeah, no, he's actually the MVP, I think.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's all like, traitor! Thrust. He's all like, no, I was just lulling her into a false sense of security.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's all like, here, take this device that I've always had. Remove their spark. Prove your loyalty. And while all this is going down, you know, it was really hard to put the pieces together for me, personally. Mm-hmm. Rat Trap was like going into his brain and seeing memories.
Yeah, just plugged in a Tankor, and he's like, let's do a play-by-play. Wait a minute. Why am I seeing my own memories?
Once upon a time, we were flying in a little boat. The little boat was going through a transwarp thing, and all of a sudden, it starts to shake. And I was like, hoo-hoo! Hee! Ha! Hoo!
Basically, this fills in the gap of what happened right after Beast Wars. They're in the transwarp tunnel. They're shaking around, and Megatron is breaking free. And you know, I think we said even in our episode, there's no way he's properly restrained in there.
No, it was just like,
yeah. So so he broke himself free, much like in that not so great Planet of the Apes movie by Tim Burton.
Yeah, I saw it
And
once.
the chimpanzee came out after Mark Wahlberg and.
It's like, hey man, look at that. It's a monkey.
So yeah, just like that, I guess. So anyways, they get out of Transwarp and they're like, hey, there's Cybertron. We're finally home. Bye, Megatron.
Geez.
Wait, they're shooting at us? Holy cow. Kaboom, kaboom.
And apparently their consoles are made of explodium as well.
And they wound up crashing.
And then running for their lives.
These tanks are launching the virus tubes.
Canisters.
Yeah, and then they land, and then they skadoosh out the virus gas, and then Cheetor and Optimus are like, whoa, we're losing science! And then they turn back from their transmetal modes into their original beast mode.
I just had an epiphany.
Gesundheit. Sorry.
They were supposed to devolve. It's like Optimus was saying in the third episode, how the Oracle set this whole thing up, sent them to get their beast modes and then back. She needed Megatron to take over Cybertron to create the techno-organic virus to then devolve from their transmetal states back to their monkey business. Oh. This whole thing was preordained. Doesn't make a lick of sense, but still.
But still. Between each vision, Rat Trap's like, his little shield comes over his head. He's like, I'm gonna talk with you, audience. This is all very confusing. What's going on? How come I'm seeing my own visions? But
Every 5 seconds, he removes his helmet to talk to us and inform the audience.
And there's no one else there. Cheetor's off battling other tanks.
He's not talking to Rhinox, and if he were talking to Rhinox, wouldn't he just talk to him using the neural link?
Oh yeah, by the way, Cheetor's coming with a bunch of tanks. He's like, hey, Rat Trap, concentrate!
Don't get distracted!
Whatever you do, don't get distracted by these tanks behind me heading toward you! Thanks, Cheetor.
And then he shuts off the tanks with his tail thing.
Yeah, so at least there was a nice solution to that. It was actually kind of funny, if anything else.
But then he's all like, wait, I'm seeing my reflection in the reflection of a tank, and I'm Rhinox. That's why I could see myself in the memories that I thought were mine, but they're not mine because they're his.
Tankor is Rhinox.
Why didn't Rhinox say anything during the fight? During the
whole thing. Rhinox, well, he was, he took a vow of silence at the end of Beast Wars.
You know what? I could see that happening.
Yeah, so...
He was very, like, one with the universe. Mm-hmm. Cheetor, grid 215.
It's just like that, yeah. Only quieter. Thrust kind of failed the whole extracting spark thing. I think Night Scream stopped him, and then Night Scream got trapped under stuff. But
pipes and like debris.
Yeah, and there's no way he's gonna get out of there because
the only spot in that entire open battlefield where there's pipes and debris is on him. It's not like he's under a building that's half collapsed.
Jetstorm takes the spark right out of her chest, and he's like, "Peace." Night Scream's like, "No!" The end of part 2.
To be continued.
And then he gets out. We don't see how, but he does.
He's like, no!
And then Thrust is like, well, she's there, and they're up there. Well, I guess I'll just carry her around with me.
Optimus has that vision with the Oracle. He's like, oh, I'm oracling right now.
And the Oracle's like, welcome to the Oracle.
The Oracle is being rather cheeky. At first, she's like, hey, Optimus, come over here. Your friends, they need you. Optimus is like, hey, what do you need me to do? And she's like, mm-mm.
He's like, oh, can you just like play charades and I'll try to guess? And she's like 2 words. He's like, monkey business. She's like, oh, good.
Jetstorm's like, hee.
Batwing is chasing him and is like, give that spark back, you
Let that Vegeta alone.
bad guy. And then he's like, I got the spark now. Well,
Then they're flying around.
Yeah.
And Jetstorm crashes into a building. And there's a huge explosion. And then Jetstorm's like, oh, geez, look at all this debris.
Oh, man, I hate it when I crash and there are explosions.
Exploding concrete. He's like, I tell him, stop making buildings out of C4. It's really annoying when it explodes.
It slows me down for like 5 seconds.
But it actually, it shows like how agile
Night
Scream is. Because he's like flying, and then there's like a bridge, and he's like, whoosh. He's just like, oh, damn.
He's like, okay, I'm gonna try to put the spark back in Black Arachnia with chest compressions, but he's a little too nervous about touching the boobies. Black Arachnia winds up in silly space, where Optimus is, and she's like, well, this place looks like white. What am I doing here? And he's like, well, I guess your spark isn't in your body.
She's like, oh, crap, I died.
And he's like, it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. And she's like, but I'm dead. And he's like, well, you know, I guess that's bad.
All the sparks are connected on a deeper level. She's like, I didn't ask you anything about that.
He's like, and we're all part of the Allspark. And she's like, well, that's just your opinion, man. And she's like, I gotta get out of here. This place sucks. And then she tries to book it. And when she books it in the dream world or the Matrix world, their spark goes, woo! And Starscream's like, well, come back. I need you. And he's like, hold on. Your friends are nearby. And they're gonna do chest compressions. Night Scream, he's good to do the chest compressions. She goes back in and she's like, oh, I'm alive. This is great.
Rhinox gets up and he's all like, ooh. But then they're like, no, you're our friend.
And she's like, are you sure about that? In the dream world, or the super atmosphere
Astral plane.
Optimus is bumping around, doing this monkey business thing. Optimus is like, hey, Rhinox. Good to see you, bud. How you been? Rhinox is like, no! You're the problem! And Rhinox is like, oh my god. Oh, Rhinox, what's wrong with you? He's like, I'm angry now! Didn't you get the memo? Well, that sucks.
Megatron had a good idea. Techno perfection. And then they're all like, that's bad. You're bad. We're going to reprogram you.
And she was like, hey, if you're not thinking right, we're going to make you think right. And even Ratchop's a little hesitant. He's like, I don't know about this, guys. But he's going to do it because, hey, Cheetor's in charge.
Then Optimus is like, no, we must not take away his lack of free will. Even though they've established that Megatron has already reprogrammed him.
But Optimus is like, hey, Rhinox made his choice. He wants to be the baddie. And Rhinox is like, good for you, Optimus. Ha, you made the right choice. I don't like you guys anymore. Especially you, Stinky. Ratchet wasn't sure if he was talking about him or if it was Night Scream.
Pretty sure it was Night Scream.
Yeah, they're both stinky. So they're very disappointed, but Shankar walks away and is like, I'm Rhinox now. Next time we meet, we are enemies. And so, business as usual.
Right now they're frenemies, but,
Yeah. Optimus is like, well, I guess this has been a very disappointing day for everybody.
The end.
Yes.
I'm going to get right to it.
Okay.
First 2 episodes, there wasn't really much I liked about it.
First one went by really fast.
First one went by like a contrived hot mess.
Yeah. The battles were very flimsy. Like there was almost like they
were generating drama and tension where there wasn't any. We've already established that the Vehicons aren't a threat. They weren't a threat when they were just getting to know their beast bodies and they couldn't even transform. So why are they all of a sudden a threat now?
We know the weapon sets and the capabilities of this team. If Optimus says, I've had enough, and then he continues to kind of do nothing, or he just occasionally shoots something and misses, it doesn't ring true. It just seems like it's very forced.
He's like, that's it, I'm going to take a stand, and then they don't do anything. They don't fight as a cohesive unit. I hate to use the C word, but I'm going to do it again. It was really contrived.
Yeah.
They were trying so hard to make the Vehicon seem like a threat. You've already established that they're not. It's like the whole Kylo Ren thing. You've defeated him in the first movie, back when she could barely use the Force, had barely even picked up a lightsaber before, and then we're supposed to believe that he's some kind of threat in the second or third movie? No, that's not how it works. Vader was a threat. He was an indomitable force in the first and second movies.
That's right. He beat Luke in the Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the winner.
To sort of use that with the Vehicons, you've got these enemies that you've established are no threats to your team, especially now that they're getting better with their bodies. They've shown that they are training and working on like different techniques and tactics and everything. I don't buy that the Vehicons were any sort of threat anymore. And so the writers have sort of like written themselves into a corner.
Because they need the good guys to win every episode.
Yeah.
So they defeat the Vehicons by this. Actually, I will give it this. There wasn't as much of this.
They must have heard our complaints from the future.
Right. Transwarp.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like there's enough story for 2 episodes, but not 3.
No. They really dragged it on.
They were very heavy-handed in alluding to Thrust being Silverbolt, like really heavy-handed.
Okay.
Like
speaking of the C word.
Him rolling in and seeing the feathers and her having visions of Silverbolt in her mind, like it's very overt.
So Megatron is supposed to be this like genius. You want to use a Maximal's spark? Go right ahead. But why are you using Maximals who have an intimate relationship with this group of Maximals to cause that conflict?
I guess the argument for that is that maybe with familiar Maximals, they would know the ins and outs of their battle techniques.
With completely new bodies that don't have kapow.
Well, now here's the hole in that, and that thing the excuse that I just made for it is that it's not showing. They're not succeeding. So by having those familiar sparks, there really has been no benefit from it because the Vehicons keep losing. But I guess maybe the intent was there, just didn't pan out.
Yeah,
maybe because Megatron. Sometimes he's a genius. Sometimes not.
He's not even in this episode. He has this like one flash at the beginning where he's like,
he's like in dream sequences. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Anything you liked, or do you want to vent more about the things you didn't like?
I did actually really like seeing the ruins of Cybertron. Cybertron looked a little too clean. We already discussed the fact that the window, in the windows, the lights are even on. It's like, man, there's not even anybody there. It's crazy to see like the graveyard and all the bodies and everything. You're just like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
It has a bit more of an impact, and I think that would have been more impactful for me. Actually, no. Let me think about that for a second. A ghost planet or a ghost planet with bodies everywhere. Both are equally impactful for the same reasons, but in different ways. Never mind. But it was still kind of nice seeing it.
Something I do like some of the flashback stuff. Like, I do like the fact that they're filling in the gaps. I didn't necessarily think that it was gracefully done. Just seeing the old bodies and in the Ark shuttle. You got to see Megatron break out of the thing and then
fall into the thing.
into the transwarp void or whatever. I do think that they could have accomplished the exact same thing with more grace if they didn't have Ratchap's visor coming up all the time and have him talk to the audience. Just play us the flashbacks. It's classic show don't tell. Just show us what happened. Don't have Ratchap go like, oh, this is weird. What's going on? I don't know.
I don't remember that at all. These memories are mine. Oh, this is what happened right after we left the Beast Wars. And every single time he had to pull his helmet up too, to really drive it home. He could be watching in wonder. So that's what happened.
Just take it in. And let us take it in.
Why were they shooting at us?
Let us figure it out at the same time as Rat Trap.
Have him discover it with us. That's how the audience goes on the journey with the character. The audience can't go on the journey with the character if the character is explaining the journey to the audience. Because then it takes the character out of the journey as well. Show, don't tell.
Come on, storytelling 101.
Another thing I really liked. We've often talked, especially in Beast Wars, is the Predacon nature...
I'm sorry.
We've asked this question several times before, in Beast Wars as well, about the nature between Predacons and Maximals. Whether simply being programmed to be a Predacon would make you more nefarious or more evil, right? it being less about ideology and it being more about, oh, you're programmed to be bad, so you're going to be bad. The counter to that would be Quick Strike. He was a Maximal, but he had these tendencies.
He's just a psycho.
Yeah. I really, really like the fact that in this episode, despite the fact that Rhinox was manipulated and most likely had his free will taken away and he was reprogrammed, he made the choice himself to stick to the plan. Cleanse all organic forms off of Cybertron so that way Megatron can build his utopia. That's his plan. And the ultimate goal is to end the fighting. And he's like, okay, well, if everyone's converted, then no one's going to fight anymore.
It does kind of make sense given, like, the Transformers, the Maximals and Predacons were at a time of peace, but their history is just war.
Yeah.
Like, loads and loads of, like, millions of years of war. Well...
Millions?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't count if they're all offline. But, okay, so at least thousands.
Well, their war spans millions of years.
Yes.
Because they were on prehistoric Earth as well.
And the stakes, once you get to Cybertron their modern day, then, you know, they don't have to worry about those things about, like, you know, having to preserve the timeline and stuff like that. Those kind of more big, important questions, that's not a problem anymore. They're where they need to be in history.
Yep.
If this is kind of like how history's playing out, where Megatron is restoring peace to Cybertron, then I guess you can kind of see where he's coming from.
But I do like that Optimus ultimately seeing that Rhinox has made his choice. And when he had his vision and Rhinox was there, and they're talking to each other, and then Rhinox is like, no! And then he's having that vision quest, and what does he say? He said Megatron was right, or something like that.
Megatron isn't the problem, you are.
Yeah, Megatron isn't the problem, you are! Because they are technically perpetuating the fight. I guarantee you, Cybertron was quiet until the Maximals arrived. And now they're blasting the shit out of the place. He's like, we had a paradise, okay? Are you sure he isn't Tigertron? But ultimately, I'd say that Optimus also living up to his like own moral code and allowing Rhinox to live in his choice and not take away that free will worked for me. That choice really, really worked.
Yeah. I think there were some good character decisions.
Only in the third episode, though.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I would say one good one that was in the first one is Cheetor choosing to take command of the Maximals and oust Optimus. He a little too overtly was like, hey, Night Scream, we're sticking by Optimus for the first little while, to the point where it's like kind of like...
You need to step up and do something.
You need to... Shh. Yeah, I think at the end there, Optimus' stupid character decision of moping around was dumb, but Cheetor's choice to take command, I think, was a bold one. I think that the choice to make Rhinox into a villain, also a bold one.
And it worked for me.
Yeah, and that's tough to say because I know that the choice to make Rhinox into a villain in Beast Machines is very, very divisive among fans.
The implications now of Rhinox, because you're not fighting a mindless tank anymore. You're fighting a genius who knows your own nature. Like, this is where we go against, like, okay, well, the tools that they're using are different, but he now understands them on a fundamental level. He understands the nature of everyone in that group, and he is a legitimate threat now.
Except for Night Scream. He doesn't know Night Scream, and he will never understand why he chose that hairstyle. This mystifies me.
Why?
But why? It blocks one of his eyes.
Half his vision is clouded.
So, I think I also have to go with that as a positive, is the Rhinox turning bad.
Talk about a threat. He was a legitimate threat to the Predacons when he was turned into Dark Designs.
In fact, actually, hey, you know what? As far as details on the voice acting level, like his voice as Predacon Rhinox was a little different from his Rhinox voice.
His Rhinox voice was very calm and one with nature.
You can tell it's the same voice, but he does something different with it. He's doing closer to the Predacon Rhinox now than he was the regular Rhinox. And actually, that's a nice little detail. So, good job, Richard Newman. So, we are deciding to give Revelations 3 out of 5 spark extractors. With an asterisk saying that the majority of the points go to the last episode, because the first two are clearly much weaker, probably like around a 1.5. And then the third episode is more around like a 4.
But if you feel differently, please tell us. Maybe we're being too harsh.
So let us know what you think about Revelations in the comments down below, because I know that this is probably very polarizing for a lot of people. Thanks so much for watching Beast Machines Monday.
And as always, tell your mom. Talked, especially in Beast Wars. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just dying. I'm good. Go on.
I can. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna get.